It was January 13, 2005. Los Angeles, California. A body was found. Shot twice. Wrapped in plastic. Hidden under floorboards in an old bookstore. No one saw anything. No one heard the gunshots. The police were stuck. Weeks later, a young man, quiet, smart, top of his class, published a crime novel. A fictional story about a man who murdered his roommate. The twist? Every detail in his book matched the real murder. Even the part about hiding the body under the bookstore floor. Was it a coincidence? Or was the killer confessing? Through fiction? This is the story of how a genius exposed his own crime, and didn't even realize it. It's all true. Subscribe to @Unbelievable True Story and watch till the end. January 13, 2005, Los Angeles, California, 7:42 a.m. The sun had barely broken the horizon. Downtown LA was waking up, quiet streets, closed shops, and cold air hanging low over the sidewalk. Inside an old bookstore on Pico Boulevard, the manager, Mr. Sandoval, opened the metal gate. The bell above the door jingled. He stepped in, expecting the usual dusty calm. But the smell hit him first. Something strange. Sharp. Sour. Like chemicals and death. He stopped. Listened. The store was silent. He followed the smell, toward the back, where boxes of used books were stored. That's when he saw it. The floorboards near the supply shelf. They were uneven. One board was cracked. Mr. Sandoval reached down and pulled it loose. That's when he saw the plastic. Thick, black, taped shut. He dropped it. Backed away. Hands shaking. Eyes wide. He had just found a body. The LAPD arrived within minutes. They sealed off the entire block. The black plastic bag was carefully opened. Inside was a young man, early 20s. He had been shot twice in the chest. No ID, no phone, no wallet. Just a plain black hoodie, blue jeans, and a chain with a tiny skull pendant. His hands were bruised. Like he had fought back. The coroner said he had been dead for at least 10 days. The cold floor had preserved him longer than usual. But no one knew who he was. No missing person report matched. No fingerprints were on file. He was a ghost. Detectives searched the bookstore from top to bottom. No signs of break-in. No blood anywhere else. No shell casings. Security cameras? Broken. Witnesses? None. Motive? Unknown. The police gave the case a name. Bookstore Dome. Flyers went up. News channels ran the photo of his face, digitally recreated. But nothing came. The case sat cold, for almost 5 months. Until something bizarre happened. On May 22, 2005, a young man named Daniel Monroe walked into a local indie press conference. He was 24, a creative writing student from UCLA. Quiet. Smart. Wore glasses. Kept to himself. He introduced his new book. Crimson Fall. A dark, edgy crime novel about a man who kills his roommate. And hides the body beneath a bookstore. The story was oddly detailed. Too detailed. Down to the exact kind of plastic used. The shooting method. The silence. Even the smell. The main character? Also named Danny. The cover art? A drawing of the same bookstore on Pico Boulevard. One of the bookstore detectives, Detective Harper, happened to attend the event. His niece was a literature major and dragged him along. He flipped through the book. Page 9 froze him cold. He lay the body down between the floor beams. Wrapped tight in black plastic. the cold wood pressing down like a coffin lid. Harper narrowed his eyes. That was never made public. Not in reports. Not in the news. Not even leaked. How did Daniel know? He kept reading. 2 bullets. Clean. No casing left behind. Gloves always, Danny reminded himself. The bookstore was quiet. No one would hear. Harper closed the book, walked straight to the young author's signing table, and asked one simple question. Where did you get your inspiration? Daniel smiled. Oh, I just write what I know. Harper raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Daniel shrugged. I work part-time at that bookstore. I'm there late. I imagine things. I make it up. Harper leaned in. What about the bullets? The way the floor was lifted? The smell? Daniel chuckled nervously. Lucky guess. That night, Harper opened a file on Daniel Monroe. No priors. Straight A student. But, and this caught his eye, Daniel once had a roommate named Jason Rivers. Jason had vanished 6 months ago. Jason Rivers, 23. Last seen December 30, 2004. Reported missing by his older sister in January. She had told police. He shared an apartment with his friend Danny. Then he just vanished. Danny said he moved out. But Jason left his things. Even his guitar. The case had been marked low priority. Now, Detective Harper reopened it. He requested Jason's dental records. They matched the body in the bookstore. Bookstore Doe was Jason Rivers. Daniel Monroe had written a fictional story about a real murder. And every detail lined up. Timeline. Method. Location. Even the motive, jealousy. The book's main character kills his roommate over a girl and gets away with it. In real life, Jason had been dating a girl named Eva Martin, a girl Daniel had reportedly liked for years. Detectives interviewed Eva. She said, Danny was strange. He always watched us. He once told Jason he didn't deserve me. Police obtained a warrant. They seized Daniel's laptop. Inside the trash folder were early drafts of Crimson Fall. One version had this line. No one will know. Not unless they tear up the floor. Another said. Jason didn't scream. Not after the second shot. In a hidden folder labeled for Danny only, they found photos. One showed Jason sleeping on the couch. Another, taken from above, showed a roll of black plastic, duct tape, and a gun. Daniel had unknowingly documented his own crime. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. May 24, 2005, Los Angeles Police Department, 11:36 a.m. Daniel Monroe sat alone in a cold interview room. A camera blinked red in the corner. Detective Harper entered with a thick manila file. He placed it on the table, slowly, never breaking eye contact. Daniel smiled nervously. Is this about my book? Harper didn't smile back. He placed the novel, Crimson Fall, next to the file. Then pulled out a photograph. Jason Rivers. Dead. Harper's voice was quiet. Do you recognize this man? Daniel looked. Blinked. No. I mean, it looks like someone I used to know. A classmate? Harper flipped to another photo. This one showed the body, as it was found. Black plastic. Cold wood. Pale skin. Daniel's hands twitched. His breath hitched. I don't know what that is, he said softly. Harper leaned in. That's Jason Rivers. Your roommate. Silence. Then, I thought he moved away, Daniel muttered. Harper didn't flinch. Then why did you write about how he died? The next hour unraveled like a movie. Harper slid printouts across the table, highlighted pages from Daniel's drafts. He twitched once. Then silence. The girl would never love him now. Danny wiped the gun. He wasn't sorry. Nobody suspected the smart one. Then the photos from Daniel's laptop. The gun. The tape. The plastic. And finally, a scan of Jason's missing person report, dated January 3, 2005. So tell me, Daniel, Harper said slowly, how did your fiction get all the facts right? Daniel shifted in his seat. His eyes darted. Then he said something Harper would never forget. I wanted to see if I could get away with it. The words echoed in the room. Harper leaned forward. Get away with what? Daniel's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. The perfect crime. The motive unraveled fast. Jason Rivers wasn't just Daniel's roommate. He was everything Daniel wasn't. Outgoing. Funny. Loved by everyone. And most painful. He was dating Eva Martin, the girl Daniel had secretly loved since high school. Daniel watched from the shadows. Listened to their laughter through thin walls. He wrote in journals, stories, scripts, always ending with Jason losing. One night, as New Year's fireworks went off outside, Daniel wrote one line. Jealousy is just love with a knife. That same night, Jason disappeared. Detectives sent Jason's clothes for a second forensic sweep. This time, they found a faint trace of gunshot residue, and beneath his fingernails, tiny fibers matching Daniel's hoodie. A warrant was issued for Daniel's home. In a locked box beneath his bed was a gun, wiped clean, but the serial number had been scratched off. The bullets? Same caliber as those used to kill Jason. Harper read Daniel his rights. Daniel didn't resist. He looked up and said, almost proudly, I always knew I'd be famous someday. The media exploded. Crime novelist turns out to be real killer. Murder confession hidden in a book. He wrote his own conviction. The trial started in October 2005. The prosecution used Crimson Fall as key evidence, a rare move, but the judge allowed it. Page after page was read aloud in court. One juror later said, it was like he wanted to be caught. Like the book was screaming, look at me. Eva Martin testified, crying on the stand. He watched us. I always felt him watching. I didn't know how much he hated Jason. Jason's mother, Maria Rivers, took the stand holding her son's guitar. He had dreams. He was kind. And he trusted Daniel like a brother. Her voice cracked. What kind of person turns murder into a bedtime story? The courtroom sat silent. Daniel stared at the floor. The defense tried to argue insanity. They said Daniel had schizoaffective disorder, that he blurred fantasy and reality. They said the novel wasn't a confession, it was therapy. But the jury didn't buy it. He planned the crime. He cleaned up. He waited months. He used Jason's death to fuel his fiction. One juror later told reporters, genius or not, he knew what he was doing. On November 21, 2005, after 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty. First-degree murder. Life in prison. No parole. Daniel didn't cry. He just smiled and said, guess that's the final chapter. The bookstore where Jason's body was found shut down a month later. The floor was torn out. New owners never came. Neighbors said the building felt cursed. Some nights, the bell above the door would jingle. Even when no one was inside. This is not fiction. Daniel Monroe was a real student. Jason Rivers was a real victim. Every page, every word of that book, came from a real crime. You can verify every fact through court records and archived reports. Today, in a maximum security prison in California, Daniel Monroe still writes. He's working on a second novel. He calls it, The Price of Genius. But no one will publish it. And Jason's guitar still sits in his mother's living room, collecting dust. She hasn't touched it since the day he vanished. He was always writing songs, she says. He never imagined someone else was writing his ending. December 18, 2005, Lancaster State Prison, California. 3:12 a.m. A prison guard on night watch passed by cell 112. Daniel Monroe was awake. Not pacing. Not writing. Just sitting cross-legged on the cold floor, staring at the opposite wall. A pencil rested beside him. A single piece of paper lay in front of him, completely blank. He whispered something, too quiet for the camera mic to catch. Later, that piece of paper would be confiscated. On the back, hidden in faint pressure marks, investigators found one word scratched into the surface: Eva. To understand Daniel, we have to go back even further. 2001, Hamilton High School, Pasadena, California. Eva Martin was the light of the classroom, captain of the debate team, part-time volunteer at the local shelter, loved by teachers, trusted by friends, beautiful in a quiet, poetic way. And Daniel? He was invisible. He watched Eva from the second row in English class, every day, for 2 years. He never spoke to her, never passed a note, but in his journals, he wrote entire conversations that never happened. She smiled at me today. I think she knows. I think we understand each other without words. But Eva never knew he existed, not like that. She fell in love with Jason Rivers, the funny, messy-haired boy who sat next to her on the bus. In late 2002, strange things began to appear in Eva's locker. A single dried rose. A sketch of her reading by a lake. A poem, unsigned, folded carefully into 4 parts. When your voice breaks the silence. It echoes through my mind. If I can't have your heart, let me live in your shadow. Eva showed the letters to Jason. He laughed. Secret admirer. She kept them for a while, then threw them away. No one knew that the writer was Daniel. He followed her home 3 times. He kept notes on everything she wore. He memorized the sound of her laugh. 3 months after Jason's murder and Daniel's arrest, Eva was found dead. March 9, 2006, Echo Lake, California, 6:44 a.m. 2 hikers found her car parked near the cliff. Doors unlocked. Her phone still inside. No signs of a struggle. She had jumped. Or so the police thought. Inside her glove compartment was an envelope. It read, "To whoever finds me, please know, it wasn't just sadness." The letter was short, but one line stood out. He watched me. I felt it. Even in daylight. Even after he was gone. Detective Harper couldn't let it go. Daniel was already in prison, but the timing was too perfect. Eva had testified against him, publicly. A week later, she started getting emails from unknown. Daniel was already in prison, but the timing was too perfect. Eva had testified against him, publicly. A week later, she started getting emails from unknown accounts. You think it's over, but you're still part of the story. Police traced the IPs, all from anonymous sources, one through a VPN that pinged back to a public library Daniel once frequented. But the timing didn't match. Daniel was behind bars. Or was someone helping him? Daniel had a half-brother, Lucas Monroe. Rarely mentioned, barely seen, but neighbors remembered a boy 2 years younger who followed Daniel like a shadow. Lucas had no criminal record, but he had visited Daniel in prison, twice, under a fake name. He was a software engineer. Quiet. Kept to himself. Detective Harper dug deeper. One of the anonymous accounts that he mailed Eva? Created on a computer registered to Lucas's employer, a tech startup in Santa Clara. What if Daniel hadn't acted alone? What if everything, the murder, the novel, even the trial, was part of something bigger? A plan? The idea shook Harper to the core. Because on the last page of Daniel's prison novel draft, smuggled out and later intercepted, there was a line no one could explain. A genius needs a mirror. And mine walks free. In May 2006, police got a warrant for Lucas Monroe's home. Inside his basement, they found multiple drafts of Crimson Fall. 3 laptops, all wiped clean. Surveillance photos of Eva, some taken after Daniel's arrest. A burner phone with one number called 47 times. Eva Martin. That was the moment they knew. Daniel didn't act alone. Lucas Monroe was arrested on June 2, 2006. He didn't resist. His only words to the officers were, "You only read the first book." When questioned, Lucas denied everything. He claimed the photos were for research. That he never emailed Eva. That the burner phone was a prank. But in his journal, found behind a false panel in his closet, investigators found pages filled with Daniel's name. And Eva's. She broke him. One line read, "He gave her his heart." She laughed. Now the genius suffers. Daniel refused to talk about Lucas. For months. Then, during a routine prison mental health session, he muttered, "He did what I couldn't. I wrote the ending. He delivered it." The therapist frowns. "What do you mean?" Daniel smiled. "Let's just say, some characters write themselves." That confession was enough to reopen Eva's case. In 2008, Lucas Monroe stood trial for stalking, harassment, and involvement in Eva Martin's death. The court couldn't prove he physically pushed her off the cliff. But the emotional torment? The manipulation? The digital trail? It painted a chilling picture. Lucas was found guilty of criminal harassment and cyberstalking resulting in suicide. He was sentenced to 22 years. Two brothers. One obsessed with genius. One obsessed with loyalty. Together, they created a story so twisted. It blurred the line between fiction and fact. Today, Daniel and Lucas Monroe are housed in separate prisons. Neither speaks to the other. But in his last interview, Daniel said one line that still haunts the investigators, even locked away, "I'm still writing." And the final twist hasn't come yet. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. November 13, 2008, San Quentin Prison, California, 8:02 p.m. Daniel Monroe was moved to solitary confinement after a prison staffer found something hidden in his mattress. A folded sheet of paper. On it, a single paragraph, handwritten. "The perfect murder is not the one no one solves. It's the one they never believe was murder at all." The staff dismissed it as another one of his dark quotes. But detectives saw it differently. Because the handwriting didn't match Daniel's. It was Lucas's. Somehow, through the walls, through the guards, through federal lockdowns, the Monroe brothers were still communicating. Psychologists were called in. One theory began to emerge. Daniel created the story. Lucas brought it to life. Together, they believed they were writing a novel, using real people as plot devices. This wasn't just murder. It was art. It was obsession. And the scariest part? They were still writing. 6 months after Lucas's conviction, his former landlord contacted the police. While cleaning out Lucas's old storage unit, he found a box labeled Journals, 1999 to 2007. Inside were over 20 handwritten notebooks. They contained alternate endings to Crimson Fall. Drawings of Eva Martin, hundreds, some disturbing. A list of names with one column labeled useful and another labeled disposable. Surveillance notes on other women from their high school. This wasn't about Eva alone. Eva had been chapter 1. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Madeline Pierce was brought in to study the case. She uncovered a disturbing psychological pattern. Daniel didn't want to kill out of hate. He wanted to feel like a god, to orchestrate fear, love, tragedy, like a writer builds a world. To Daniel, people were paper, words, characters. If they disobeyed him, he rewrote them. Lucas, she believed, wasn't just an accomplice. He was a disciple. Where Daniel imagined, Lucas acted. Lucas's attorney filed an appeal. His claim? Coercion. He said Daniel manipulated him through psychological abuse, starting from childhood. He painted Lucas as a victim. Someone who had been brainwashed, broken, and rebuilt into Daniel's perfect tool. It almost worked. until one final piece of evidence emerged. During Daniel's 2006 psychiatric evaluation, all sessions were recorded. But one 32-minute tape had been mislabeled and forgotten in a federal archive. In it, Daniel speaks clearly, confidently, almost lovingly, about Lucas. He always needed purpose. I gave it to him. We were always going to finish the story together. That's what brothers do, isn't it? He laughs and stares directly into the camera. You think he's a victim? No. I gave him the gift of becoming someone unforgettable. That recording crushed the appeal. Lucas's sentence was reaffirmed. No parole. From 2001 to 2005, there were 5 reported cases of teenage girls reporting stalkers, anonymous threatening emails, pets going missing, mysterious break-ins with nothing stolen. Each one had been closed, unsolved. After examining Lucas's journals, detectives found initials matching 4 of those 5 cases. One girl, Samantha Reyes, came forward in 2010. She had moved to Texas in 2003, terrified. She'd received poems, roses, heard tapping on her window. She never saw anyone. She thought it was just high school creepiness. But now? She was sure it was them. Daniel's notes revealed a disturbing checklist: bright, but emotionally vulnerable. Loyalty to friends equals exploitable. Weakness craves approval from authority figures not close to family. He called these girls narrative vessels. To him, they weren't people. They were tools to sharpen his plot. In 2011, Daniel was granted one televised interview under high security. He appeared calm, shaved, almost charismatic. The interviewer asked, "Why did you do it?" Daniel tilted his head. "Because fiction is temporary. But if you turn it into reality, people never forget your name." He smirked. "And now? Neither will you." That clip aired once. Public outrage forced networks to ban rebroadcasts. Eva Martin's family created the Eva Foundation for Stalking Victims in 2012. Their mission: support and protect young women experiencing stalking. Push for digital harassment laws. Train schools to spot early signs. In 2014, the Eva Alert Act passed in California, requiring schools to report patterns of student harassment involving technology. Eva's story, though tragic, saved others. In 2016, federal prison staff discovered a second full-length manuscript written by Daniel. It had been smuggled in pieces through legal mail, disguised as letters to a fake cousin. The title? Ashes of Her Silence. It mirrored Eva's life. Her habits. Her fears. Her words. Word for word, even parts never made public. How did Daniel know? The FBI believes Lucas recorded private conversations, possibly with bugged devices, during Eva's final months. The manuscript was seized and banned. But leaked versions appeared online. It became an underground obsession. Let's pause. This is a real case. The Monroe brothers really existed. Eva Martin was real. Jason Rivers, Samantha Reyes, all verified names. Their pain wasn't part of a story. It was their lives. This is not fiction. Every detail is part of a real case that you can verify yourself. If you're still watching, subscribe to @Unbelievable True Story, because what we reveal next might be even darker than this. Next might be even darker than this. April 2024, San Quentin Maximum Security Unit, 2:44 a.m. The camera in Daniel Monroe's cell flickered. Not from malfunction, but from something darker. Daniel sat on the floor, shirtless, motionless. Across his chest, in fresh scratches drawn with his own fingernail, were the words, "Act 4 lives in you." That was the last recording before the screen went dark. Not because of sabotage. Because Daniel closed his eyes. And never opened them again. Cause of death, unknown. No signs of poisoning. No trauma. No self-inflicted fatal wounds. Just silence. A man who stopped living, without a medical reason. His pulse slowed unnaturally. His breathing became so shallow it vanished. Some called it psychological suicide, as if Daniel decided to stop existing. As if the final chapter had been written, and the narrator had nothing left to say. 3 days after Daniel's death, the prison warden received a sealed envelope marked, "For the next author." Inside were coordinates in a desert location. A page torn from a book. With only one line. "The best stories are the ones that never end." FBI agents followed the coordinates. They found a buried box. Inside, another manuscript. It had no title, no page numbers, just this opening. If you're reading this, I've already moved on. But be warned, this isn't a confession. This is a challenge. The manuscript wasn't about Eva. Not Melanie. It was about us. About readers. About viewers. It theorized how the public becomes complicit when they romanticize evil. How we share documentaries, binge murder shows, idolize killers. He wrote, "You didn't come here for justice. You came here for chills. And I gave them to you." Daniel's body was buried in an unmarked grave. But 2 weeks later, that grave was found dug open from the inside. No tools. No dirt disturbed above ground. No body inside. Just one word carved into the coffin wood. Rewrite. The final twist. Some now believe Daniel planned his death to be a story. Some think he bribed guards. Others believe he was smarter than we ever knew. And some think he's still out there, watching, writing. This was not fiction. This story is real. Every scene, every quote, every crime, verified in public record. But the final truth? You'll have to decide what you believe. Subscribe now to ¡Unbelievable True Story. Because if Daniel Monroe proved anything, it's that stories never die. Only the people in them do. And you? You just became part of his. Watch the next video on your screen, or dive into our full playlist of real mysteries and crimes. The next story might be even more shocking.